2025. Perps are assumed innocent till proven guilty, as anyone should be, but often released without bail and free to continue their crime spree with little or no consequence. Judges are all too happy to release the animals into the wild to continue their crime spree. But cops, on the other hand, are assumed guilty until proven innocent, many of them fired and forced to then prove their own innocence, oftentimes paying for their defense out of their own pockets. Firefighters are not immune to this behavior. Double standard? Yeah, you bet your ass there is. Firefighters never had to deal with the double standard. They've always been the first responders that everybody wanted to see, right? Who doesn't love the firefighters? Who's not happy when the firefighters show up? But that script has been flipped on our brothers and sisters in red. And we all know since the beginning of time, emergency service in our fields, the cops and the firemen, we had a good working relationship. We broke each other's balls, but we respected each other. We had each other's back. We had it on the scene, we had it back at the precinct, and we had it back at the firehouses. But all that changed when the tolerant left began to attack them. Violent protesters blocking fire hydrants, blocking fire trucks, stopping them from going down and putting fires out. Welcome to our world, guys. The other thing we have in common is that we always take care of our own. Police, fire, military, we take care of our own. That's what we do. Today's guests are going to share what they're doing to help out, be it by services offered or charity given. I'm Tommy Werther, and you're in the Blue Room. Welcome back to the Blue Room and the Blue Podcast Network, live from the Tactical Financial Studios here in lovely downtown Phillipsburg, New Jersey. And we are live in studio with our friend Matt, owner and CEO of Black Ice Consultants. Welcome back, Mike.
Hey.
I say welcome back. We had him call in once before. This is Matt's first turn at the table. So when I say welcome back, it's his first in studio. What do you think? What do you think of the layout?
I think you guys have a beautiful facility here. I'm glad to be here today. I'm honored to be here today, given whatever.
Can you bring your big fat face closer to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's my first time on a podcast. Do I have to talk into this like old time radio?
Exactly. Or just put it really close to your mouth without sticking it in.
Oh, okay.
Can you do that?
I don't know if I'm capable of that. You know, it's especially with the cigar here. I don't know what I might get confused. You know.
All right, we have a couple of guests in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'll bring them up.
Let's jump right in there. Robbie, Rich, you guys with us?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Good to see you.
Hey, great to be here, guys. So we have with us Rich Doherty from Fish Responders and Robbie Grebick from Fire Department Meals, both based out of Florida. What's up, guys?
Living the dream. Nice and warm.
It's nice to be in the communist-free state of Florida.
Oh, you guys like swinging guns by your off your fingertips and stuff there?
Walk around with it every day.
All right, before we get into it with you guys, I just wanted to read out a quick little announcement here. We had covered the Dim family on last show with promoting their GoFundMe. Condolences to Eric Dim. Eric Dim was a retired lieutenant from NYPD, also a military service member. I believe he was a Marine. Their son, Eric, 8 years old, had a brain tumor, very rare form of brain cancer that affects about 300 kids a year. The family was traveling. They retired. They traveled to Bali. They were living the dream. You know, we joke about living the dream. These folks were living the dream. They left the country. They went to Bali. They were traveling around Asia with their family, just soaking up all the things that, you know, as cops and firefighters with, 40, 50, 60-hour work weeks, we don't traditionally get time like that to go away for a couple of months or even a couple of weeks. And this family did it. Eric had brain cancer. They retired. While they were traveling, LA happened to be the closest major city to where they were because they were in Asia. They get him there. They get him to LA to a hospital, and they spend 14 months living out of a trailer close to the hospital, raising money, trying alternative forms of medicine. They were doing this radiation to using low frequency sounds to break up the tumor. They couldn't take the tumor out because of the location. Unfortunately, Eric has passed away. Just gut wrenching. We talk about line of duty deaths that, we say, a lot of people say, well, line of duty death, it's a job that you knew was possible. That was going to happen. And we can live with that, right? It's not something that we want to, but we see friends and family pass often. For an 8-year-old kid, you cannot console the family enough. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can do. I know for me personally, I almost feel embarrassed expressing my condolences to a family that loses a child like this, because although I know that they appreciate the concern, I also know that there is nothing I can say. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can be part of that's even going to put a scratch in what they're feeling. So we just know that the Dim family's in our prayers, and we hope that they're able to find a way to continue on. Terrible, terrible tragedy. So I just wanted to get that out of the way before we get to the happy stuff. Then we're thinking about them. So, Rich Doherty, fish responders. We'll start with you because the reason that we met Robbie was through you and the work that you do at Fish Responders. Rich, retired firefighter from the Boston area, 16, 17 years on the job, retires, goes down to Florida, says, hey, I like fishing. I like helping people. What can I do? How can I help people? Right?
So,
Is that
so basically Fish Responders Charters is we started this. I started this about 5 or 6 years ago. I've been fishing my whole life. I was on the pro circuit for bass fishing in Massachusetts. Actually, my professional career started because the decision maker basically went into cardiac arrest in front of me. And we helped him, got him back, got him the care he needed. And next thing you know, I'm on the pro tour. So that's how that started. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Sure.
And we moved everything down to Florida and started Fish Responders Charters. The big thing that we do here is to introduce kids that might not have the means to be able to get out on the water. And actually, I have a young man right now that's 13. He's the son of a fallen firefighter from Kansas City. And we're working with him. He's in one of the Let Us Do Good Village for Tunnel to Towers down here in Florida that consists of 100 homes. And I'm in the process of building an East Cape 17 Evo. Plug out to East Cape, Kevin. Those guys are building me a state-of-the-art skiff, and I'm involving this kid in this process. And he's gonna be the first one to go out and fish the day on this vessel.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I see you grew out that mustache since the last time I saw you.
Well, it hides the fat.
That's funny because I was
like that.
I grew a beard out because I lost a lot of weight and I was trying to hide the AIDS,
the AIDS
I had for a while. But then I trimmed it down to this really awful porn mustache.
Yeah, I was going to say you do look like a creeper.
It's like I love it and I hate it at the same time.
Well, it pissed my wife off enough that I figured I'd wear it for a month until I get tired of it. So how did you get hooked up with Robbie?
So this was like you mentioned before, firefighters, police officers, military personnel, we're all kind of the same. And we started following each other. I started busting each other's balls via the Instagrams. And then I started getting friendly with them and visited and started eating their meals. And believe it or not, it may not look it, but I lost a lot of weight on their meals, and they're great.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I mean, these meals, this is the container it comes in, fire department meals. I mean, you're eating homemade meals that feel like you aren't going to lose any weight on them, but the way they make them and the ingredients that they use, you know, they kick ass. And I have, you know, one of the decals that Rob has is there's no bullshit in the meal, and there isn't. It's all good stuff. So
Is that,
I went
is
on
that,
that.
is that on the label somewhere? There's no
It
bullshit
is.
in this container.
Yeah, it is. We're gonna have
Is
to
it
send
really?
it to you.
It's
Yeah,
on
it
our t-shirts anyway. We get
And
So-
Robbie, so where
on
did
our box.
was that? Robbie, where did this come from? Like this, I know that you were Chicago Fire for 19, 20 years. Just said, hey, I like cooking, and what's a second career? Where does this?
Yeah, not really.
The food industry is a tough one to break, but it seems like you're doing well.
Well, it's one of the dumbest retirement plans I could have thought of. To be honest with you. Now, really, it's a weird story because I'm also an engineer. I got a college degree in engineering, and I moved to the Middle East a few years after I broke my back and retired. And I met my wife. We were living in Saudi, and we were cooking for a bunch of people at the consulate in the embassies there, because that was the only place in Saudi Arabia where you could, you know, kick back a vodka tonic or a beer, because they had it on property. So we made a lot of friends with a lot of military people real fast, so we could get into those events. Well, we started cooking for a lot of them, and cooking for a lot of the parties that they were having, and they said, you guys should open a restaurant. So it was a thought process of opening a restaurant. Then we said, you know, we looked in Chicago, we looked in different places, you know, and at $1 million a pop for any kind of property in Chicago, forget it. By the time you put all the staff in it. So we said, let's do a food truck. Started a food truck. And the long short of it all is Meal Prep came on scene pretty heavily before, you know, right before we had our, you know, our false demic. Thankfully for me, we had a false demic because it shot us through the roof, because people couldn't get good meals where the Ubers and the restaurants weren't geared up to deliver. We were geared up to deliver meals already, and we were doing it. So it worked out really well. We exploded during that time. And here we are today. We're doing, we do about 10,000 meals a week out of here. We ship to 50 states out of here. So it's crazy. I never expected it to be, but it's also a lot of stress.
Did you find? I know I did a lot of traveling, and I like to cook a lot. And typically when we go away,
Weren't you on a cooking show, Tommy?
No, there's nothing to see here.
I'm saying you were, weren't you? And how'd that work out for you?
You were on a cooking show?
It worked out well. What
cooking show? I need to know more.
Cooking with clothes off. That was the name of it. It didn't make it very far.
Well, now we know why you lost.
It had a really short run, if you know what I mean.
The mustache took up too much room when the clothes were off?
I found that when traveling, that the access to fresh ingredients, especially spices and vegetables, is amazing when you get out of this country. I'm assuming that in the Middle East, you must have had a plethora of spices and vegetables that typically maybe you've never even heard of here, and you're able to crush it there.
Yeah, I mean, we do bring. My wife is from the Middle East. My wife is actually born in Baghdad, Iraq. So she brings a lot of that Middle Eastern flavor. You know, their flavor isn't spicy. Their flavor is flavor. The spices are more of a depth than you know, rip the roof of your mouth out, right? So that brings balance to what I do. You know, I cooked a lot in the firehouse. I cooked a lot, you know, growing up. Oh, there's our baby, our food truck, soon to be.
So that truck right there, that's a concept.
That is a concept, yes.
Photo?
Yep, we got it to the point where it doesn't look that pretty right now if you took all that you know, Photoshop off of it. But you know, that is the concept. That was going to be at the time we were called Chicago Food Department when we started the company, CFD. That didn't work really well down here because everybody thought I made pizzas and hot dogs. So we changed it to Orlando Food Department, trying to, you know, be local.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out too either because we every time we showed up somewhere with a T-shirt, everybody thought we were here to do inspections. So it just got to the point where we had to go. We were going to ship. We knew we were getting into the shipping business. Hit a little bit more generic with fire department meals.
Yeah, it seems like you had like sort of the keep it simple, right?
Yeah, simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Sometimes it still don't work. I still get, a lot
sure.
of questions that we
Go
just
in
feed
there,
firehouses, but
the weight.
The what? Am I hearing other voices here?
you heard somebody.
So you're doing 10,000 meals a week
Yeah, we do 10,000.
that you're shipping out,
Yeah.
and you also have a storefront where folks can just walk in and say, "I need 3 meals for lunch" or something like that.
Yeah, we have a small storefront, not by choice, just by we were forced. We needed something to do what we wanted to do, and this was honestly the most reasonable place. I could do better in a warehouse, but this has infrastructure. It had the hood, it had a lot of stuff in here already, and I didn't have to go in and remodel an entire warehouse to make it work for me.
Mhm.
We are growing out of this place. I mean, we literally, we've got 9 people working here, kicking out meals, and we're running over each other at this point.
I bet. And like you said earlier, like you made a joke about it being like one of the worst decisions, the food industry being as crazy and all over the map. But you're used to it. I mean, where Chicago Fire Department, just like any other major city, LA, Miami, New York, is a busy place. So hectic and running around like a chicken without a head is not strange to you by any stretch. I'm going to assume. I don't know where you worked in Chicago. I'm certain that there were, just like anywhere else, areas that are slower than others. But even the slower sections, the areas are still pretty busy comparative to other, forms of employment. Did you work in a place where you felt constantly moving?
We were. I was on the busiest house in the city at the time. We were running 35 to 4,000 calls a year.
Ooh, wow, 4,000 jobs a year.
That's
out of one truck.
Out of one house.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's literally like 5, 6, 7 jobs a day.
On average, yeah. Sometimes more, sometimes less.
And so we had a couple of pictures here. This is a big one. This is that. I
Warehouse.
don't know if you were on the job there, but that was River North.
Yeah.
9
River North,
art galleries.
Little too far up for us, but yeah.
Massive amount of crazy like that. That's a job like that probably goes for 2 or 3 days, right? At least 2 days, I would think, around the clock, right? I mean, that's going to smolder for days afterwards,
Yeah,
which
they
you got to
run.
worry about.
They run for a while. It's people don't understand that kind of stuff, especially around here. I'm not going to get into around here, but yeah, it's a job, right? And you got to love it. If you don't love it, then don't do it.
So what is the goal for that truck? Is that truck going to be sort of like a food truck, basically? You would go to the corner of so-and-so and set up and sell meals?
Yeah, this particular this is Heroes Feeding Heroes. This is our 501c3 that we launched officially this year. The idea behind the truck is to get out and first feed everybody, raise money for Heroes Feeding Heroes. Heroes Feeding Heroes is set up. Our mission is to get the proper nutrients and clean nutrition into people that are either suffering an injury, suffering a loss of a loved one, on the job, off the job, where nutrition actually gets put on the back burner when you suffer a tragedy.
Yep.
Last thing you're thinking about is eating something good. If you're thinking about eating at all, so the idea is to be able to raise money we do it today, but we do it as fire department meals. I mean, we've sent stuff up to Rich. He's had some people that needed help. We've helped hook a hero with a family recently. So it's there for our first responders, our military, to help them through their time of need with nutrition while they worry about everything else and stay out of the damn not McDonald's fast food line, right?
So would you say that focus is towards the family of the first responders after an incident, or more towards they're on a job for 8 hours, a tornado or hurricane or whatever, and they need, like I said, you don't think about, oh, am I getting my 4 ounces of broccoli today? All you care about is getting something in your body so
Correct.
that you can continue to operate.
Yeah, we have an emergency response goal with the truck as well. I mean, down here in Florida, last year we got hit with several decent hurricanes that ripped through the Panhandle and the Big Bend area. Rich got nailed, pretty good. So getting that truck up into those areas to serve everybody at that point, you see as a hero, right? Even just the average citizen out there helping clean up is a hero. So we want to get that up there and help a community in time of need as well. Get up to South Carolina, get up to Georgia, get wherever we need to get in the event of a major event, a weather event or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is a second goal of that truck, is to be able to do that with whatever money we obviously can raise.
Yeah. Well, I've always been food, when I'm food oriented, when there's tragedy, we would have a death in maybe not my family, but close family, friends. And everybody was running around saying, oh, let's get flowers, or can we take care of the kids? I always defaulted to food, and I would cook up trays and trays of individually packed meals, freeze them, and then bring them to family members and give them a week's worth of meals that they didn't have to worry about. And that's one of those things that most people don't think about when tragedy hits, is that, oh, what are you going to do? Are they going to order something? They'll be fine. Nah, you know what? It's nice to be able to just take something out of the freezer that someone made for you and say, that's one thing I don't have to worry about.
Absolutely. I think about all the line of duty funerals I've been to across the country with police murders on the rise. A lot of these smaller communities are ill-equipped to handle and support their first responders in a way such as this. And it's amazing to see somebody out here actually thinking ahead. And, it's not going away anytime soon.
No.
And to be able to give this kind of contribution back, I think that's amazing.
Well, I think that falls on us though, too, because when you think about budgets and whatnot, you can't account for that. You can't account for the tragedies that are going to, you don't know how many storms are going to hit. I mean, Florida gets anywhere between 6 and 8 catastrophes a year, and that's just in that state. Forget about Georgia, Louisiana, South Carolina, the bordering states, that Alabama, that get it as well. That's not factored in. That falls on us to be able to take care of our own. Like I said earlier in the intro, we take care of our own. This is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, and that food thing, you're 100% right, is huge. When we were going through what we went through with Emerson, that's what my daughter was in the NICU for the first 7 months of her life. But when she came home, we had 17 hours a day of nursing in the house, and her teachers, our co-teachers, they set up a thing where every night during the week somebody would drop off a meal that they either made or picked up or just whatever, and that was it's so undervalued. Like you don't realize how much that helps. It really is.
And the level of appreciation.
Yeah.
We've all been to the funerals where you see $100,000 worth of flowers that are going to be gone in 3 days, but that couple $1,000 in food goes so much further than a few bouquets of flowers.
It reminds me of the old Sopranos episode with the ZD Patrol when Bobby Bacala's wife dies and everybody's just starting showing up with the trays of food, and he gets down to the last tray of food after 2 episodes, but it's the same thing.
Well, Tommy, I'll give you an perfect example we just had recently. Unfortunately, an Orlando SWAT member lost his 2-year-old son in a drowning in a pool. And his wife was 9 months pregnant. And I got the phone call from one of his teammates and asked if there was anything we could do about food. Within 24 hours, his family had a case of food. And I got a phone call a couple days afterwards and said, you cannot believe how just a case of food took the relief out of that family. They didn't have to think about cooking for those days, and they could just concentrate on what they needed to do. So it's amazing what Rob, I'm very excited to be a part of that whole program.
I took a look a little bit when Rich and I were talking about this segment. He was really when I asked him, can you recommend someone that's doing really great things for the community? Your name came right up. He was excited about it. He said he's eating the food. So that's got the wheels start turning on my end because, you know, from a business perspective, I don't always go for what's best or what's right or what's cheapest. I look at the overall, whatever item is that I'm buying, and your price points are right in line. You know, Forbes magazine does a list of the mail order meal plans, and the top 2, 3, and 4 are all in that same price range, that, you know, $15 to $18, $19 price range to get a, you know, 8, 10, 12 ounces of food, proportioned and healthy. And you guys are right there with it. And when you deal with the larger companies like anywhere else, it's a food factory. They're making 1,000 pounds of this and 1,000 pounds of that, and a scoop of here and a scoop of there and a scoop of, and what you're doing on a smaller scale makes it, like you said, fresh ingredients. Someone's going out to the Stop and Shop or to the Restaurant Depot and buying cases of broccoli and cases of meat and all that. And a half a dozen people are preparing this with you, not a factory someplace with 1,000 employees that are just basically putting mush in a bowl and slapping a sticker on it.
There ain't no Stofers.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And to, I mean, put a little bit on top of that is a lot of these larger companies today turning out, you know, a lot more meals than I'm turning out. A lot of that food is already processed and cooked.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's in a co-packing facility where they're just dropping mashed potatoes out of a steel tube into your container, plopping a piece of meat in there that's been cooked, you know, God knows how long ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's got perfect grill marks. You know, I've been cooking a long time. I turned 59 years old in a couple of days, and I'm gonna
happy
tell you,
birthday.
I can't. Thanks. I can't get perfect fucking grill marks. Sorry, pardon my French. I can't get perfect grill marks on every piece of chicken I cook.
They must paint them on, right? They lay them out there with a grid and they just paint them.
Stamped by a machine, you know.
You guys are ruining food for me.
Like literally, no, you're right. It's like a heat stamp almost. It lines up and then probably just press on.
Next, you're going to tell me there's no Santa.
Yeah,
I need to know how White Castle's made. I don't want to hear it.
I don't want to tell you there's 50 ingredients in a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, just in the chicken alone. So not the
Bobby Kennedy Jr. just kicked a feral animal.
Well, that's funny that you say that, is because so basically I've come on board with Fire Department Meals. I'm pretty good at marketing. So I probably call 30 to 50 people a day to try to come on board with this 501c3 with Heroes Feeding Heroes. And Robert, when we first started, I mean, this is going to be a cakewalk. This is going to be easy to get these people to give us a hand, to help us, to grow this company, to help, you know, firefighters, police
even
officers.
The sponsors are here and there. The sponsorship is big, right? I mean, you can't do it without the money.
But it's been absolute uphill battle trying to get some of these companies to come on board with us. You know, we talk about some of these other companies that Robert and I have done multiple favors with, and we can't even get a post on this stuff. Yeah. It's so it's a very simple concept. We want to help fellow firefighters, police officers, and military people that have served this country, and is the reason why we're allowed to sit here and talk about all this stuff. And it's just, we need a little help. That's all we're at.
And honestly, all you're really asking for, you know, when you talk about the larger companies and whether they're you're just looking for a share, a like. Literally, social media rules the world. Like you get involved in something and you say, hey, can you just put a hyperlink on your website, or can we just put a poster up for this event? Or look, we're here, we're donating time, we're donating money, energy, food, we're involved, and we just need a little boost. And a boost could be a check, a boost could be share this on your platform, the boost could be whatever it is, a sign somewhere. And they may not do it. Like that doesn't
they also push when it comes to first responders. There's data that shows that they push stuff like that down lower in the feed with the new algorithms, especially for Meta. I don't know how X is doing with all that stuff, but I know it's been, for me, a very big struggle dealing with Meta, especially with a lot of what I do. Absolutely. It doesn't take much to click, share, like, link, you know?
So, Robbie, how far off do you think you are truck wise for that concept? Do you think that that's something that's going to happen by the end of this year? You think, or are there sponsorships in the works that are looking hopeful?
Well, we're always hopeful, right? I mean, I'm never going to get on my knees and beg. You know, I'll do it on my own before I beg somebody. And I've never begged for help my entire life. I'm not going to beg for help now. But you know, as soon as I can get this truck on the street, it'll be on the street. And end of the year, I'd love it to be 1 year into this business, and we make it happen January 1st. I mean, that's the long of it, but sooner the better. But you know, we just keep plugging along. Like Rich says, he's called hundreds of people. And I mean, I've even got a client base. I mean, 10,000 meals don't go out to nobody.
Yep.
You know, and we've posted stuff on social media, and for all the things I've done for what I call family with fire department meals, you know, it's crickets. I mean, literally, I'm not asking you for $500. Give me $5. I would fall out of my chair if somebody gave me $5.
Sure. Yeah, I go through the same thing with my I have a cigar company, Line of Duty Cigars, and the concept.
Look at you working the plug in before I can.
9 years.
Amazing
Good-
cigars. You
good
got
job.
Amazing cigars.
But you know, I had the same thought process was, you know, I'm a cop. I'm gonna, you know, police, fire, military are near and dear to my heart. My cigar company is going to be the company that you go to when you need cigars for your golf outing, for your family day, for your cigar night, for your steak night, for whatever it is. If you need them, you come to me, and I will give you the best deal out there. If you want garbage at the bottom of a humidor from a cigar shop that just can't sell them, that's fine. If you want to pay $2 or $3 or get them for free, that's fine. But the people that are coming to your event are paying, you know, golf outings now are $150, $200 a golfer. And if you get a cigar, you're lucky. And if you get a decent cigar, you're lucky. And for me, I much like what you're saying, Robbie, is that you think, how could I not be the one? All the good that you do and we share, they should be beating down my door. They should be beating down your door. And it's like, they're just not. It's just not I guess, you know, anything worth doing is worth doing, right?
Yeah,
you got to put your heart and soul into it. And
Hey,
when
where
you
did this come
do,
from?
and you don't get the return that you kind of not expect or anticipate, but you pray for, and it doesn't come, it can get discouraging. You know, it can get discouraging.
So where we're at with that truck right now is Robert bought the truck. He sent it away to be overhauled. That was like another $10,000 bill. And I've got a tire company, Black Dog Tire, here in Hudson, Florida. Basically, buys that truck for about $7,000. They're going to put them on for $2,000. I've got another company, Local Wraps, that is sat there. We sat there for hours and designed that wrap that's going to go on that truck. So where we're at right now is the truck's running, needs minor body work, which I'm contacting every vocational school, college or high school in the state of Florida. I figured that'd be a great project for them to get involved with and then get recognition giving back. And right now, basically, we've got a great running truck, but we need the tires on that truck to be able to take it to Pierce Manufacturing, because we've made contact with them here in Florida. That's who made that truck. That's a
I was going to say, Pierce is a truck company, right? They made the truck.
Pierce fire truck, rescue, heavy rescue. And, but we can't even transport it to go have a one-on-one meeting with Pierce until we get the tires on it.
Sure.
So we just need that one break and
one click.
So perfect example. I have a list of certified schools. Last 3 days I've called 275, and we're up against, they're getting ready to get out for the summer is what I'm up against right now with that avenue. It's not that they don't want to get involved, but it's been harder than I expected it to be. but we're going to get it. It's
But like you're
it's-
saying, it's that one click. Like you say, I've called 100 people today. You know what? It's going to be the 101st, or it's going to be the 105th, and all the other calls that you made you're going to forget about when that knight in shining armor shows up and says, "Man, I got you." That's
Right.
it.
And here's the other thing from a marketing aspect. If if you help us, you're going to go on the truck. Your logo is going to be put on the truck. And like Robert has even suggested, he's going to show up with the truck at your company and feed all your people. And so it's a two-way street. The marketing aspect out of that is going to outweigh any contribution you make.
For sure.
What about the fire unions? I don't know how the unions are set up down there. I know there's an international, which probably could care less. I may be speaking out of school here, but I would think the internationals would care less about something like this. But when you're dealing with a smaller unions or divisions of the international, that someone might be able to say, "Hey, you know what? Let's get the men and women involved."
I'd have a tendency to agree with you. I've been currently in Oviedo now we're on our third year in this location, and when we first opened up, we did sell sandwiches out of here. The same sandwiches we sold out of here would be the ones that go on the truck. We just stopped doing it here because trying to do production cooking and stopping that for a $10 Chicago hot dog.
Yeah.
Was to the point where my wife was either going to strangle me or bury me in the back by the grease trap.
She's just waiting for an excuse.
Yeah. And so we got rid of the sandwiches.
Grow a mustache like Tommy's, and that'll probably solve it.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to look like a fireman with a mustache. I get it. But anyway, in 3 years, local fire department here is called Oviedo. Their Oviedo Fire Department, and in the 3 years, not one has come in here to buy a sandwich or a meal. So the support in the brotherhood, I hate to say it, isn't like it used to be. I mean, us old
tough.
school guys are the last of it.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get it, and they're the very people that when that tornado or that hurricane or that tide comes in, those are the very people that are going to be eating the food from that truck when that happens.
Right. They'll be the first ones knocking on the door when they need help.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the cops will be in the back, putting two at a clip in their pockets, because that's what we do.
Well, what we're trying to figure out how to get donuts crammed into this container.
Exactly.
If it's free, it's for me. If it's not for me, I'll take 3.
Listen, I'll shove a couple of donuts in your package, Rich. Don't worry.
That sounds weird. Can you rephrase that?
I feel uncomfortable.
We actually have been talking
You're
to
an adult.
We've been talking to a couple
Kid
of
show.
Local law enforcement. Seminole County wants to get us in their training facility.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem like the police are a little bit more interested in it than the firefighters are.
Yeah, well, the difference being that typically in a firehouse, I'm not saying that you're sitting around, but you're a proactive job. So at the
You can
firehouse,
say it, Tommy. Go ahead.
waiting to be called. Obviously, you didn't have this problem in Chicago, but I'm assuming in Florida, they're just like anywhere else, hanging around and cooking for themselves, aren't going out to get meals for the most part, unlike the cops that are, and police outside of New York City, there's, you got your county cops, your city cops, your town cops, you got your sheriff's department, you got your state. All these cops are out there working the street, and they need a bite. Where are they going to go? They need to,
White Castle.
that is probably a better angle to attack.
Yeah.
Because those guys are out in the street, and probably 500 cops a day pass by your store, when maybe 2 fire trucks a day might pass by that store.
And I get a lot of police officers. We got a lot of Orange County guys come in. They buy the meals, they put them in their cooling bag, and what they do is they'll flip into a firehouse, ironically, or into a 7-Eleven, and heat it up in their microwave.
Perfect.
It's genius. I mean,
Yeah.
what else can you ask for? When you're paying the same amount of money than you do driving through McDonald's, drive-through.
I gotta say, Tommy, that your logo does look good on a
Oh, you know, I had that in my
look at
hand. I had that
You
in
had
my
to
hand.
one up me, huh?
Yeah, no, well,
You had to one up me.
Rich had made me one a couple years ago, and it sits on my desk. And as I was packing to come there, I'm like, all right, got to make sure I grab the cigars, grab the face shield, and a couple other things. And when I got in the car, I started driving. I was like, oh, I left the face shield or the helmet shield. But yeah, you still have that guy? So
Yeah,
Rich has got a
right
guy
there.
that makes plates, helmet plates, and that's a line of duty one, metal.
Wow.
Right there.
I think I
There's
might-
a helmet to wear.
I'm gonna hang it on a necklace, be my bling.
Will it
I
fit in
mean,
the plate
he'll be
carrier,
like-
baby?
It'd be like what was his name? Flavor Flav.
Flavor
There you
Flav.
go. Flavor Flav. You need the grill.
So, Rich, what do you got going on fishing wise? You are you working? Is the charter moving? Have you been fishing?
So basically, right now, actually, yesterday I just was over Mosquito Lagoon. We did a quick photo shoot with Weird Water Charters. He's my teammate. Captain Rick Hillard and I are doing the Redfish tour. I'm in between boats right now. I just got on board with East Cape Boats here in Florida, and my skiff is about 50% done right now. So hopefully in about another month or so, I should have that, and then we're up and running. So timing was pretty good. I had a lot of idle time to spend chasing people for fire department meals.
Mm-hmm. And is that full time stuff? Your first fish responders.
Fish responders is basically 2 or 3 days a week. So out of the 2 or 3 days a week, I usually I dedicate one day for charities and donations, taking people out, taking again firefighters and police officers and military out fishing, and then the other 2 I usually book charters.
So, Robbie, this has got to be full time work. Like this is not even if every concern was answered and someone come in tomorrow and dropped a massive 6-figure check on your lap and said, "Hey, man, get it running." Like this is full. You said you had 9 people. You're gonna have 20 people. Like this is all in, all hands. You said earlier you're 59 years old. That's a lot of work for a 35-year-old, let alone a 59-year-old. It's
Way to make him feel old, bro. You're the worst host ever. Now you know why you
Dude,
lost
I'm
the cooking show.
I'm 53. I could barely get out of bed, man.
Yeah, and you know it's why I get out of bed, because I know, you know, there's times my wife and I have been here at 1 o'clock in the morning to make sure that everything gets done so it goes out on Tuesday. You know, it sucks, but it's worth every bit of it. I mean, I joke about it's the worst retirement plan I've ever come up with. I wouldn't have it any other way at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in the corporate world. I worked at Universal Studios here in Orlando up until the end of 2020, when COVID hit. My wife was doing the meal prep on her own. I'd help on the weekends when I was off from Universal, and when COVID hit, they laid us all off and called us all back. And at that point, I said, you know, I can't leave my wife to do this by herself, especially if we're going to grow. If we're going to grow, we better grow. Otherwise, close the doors and just let me make a paycheck.
Well, so then COVID was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back as far as your commitment to it, saying, hey, you know what, it's now or never, right? You had the opportunity to jump in with 2 feet and said, you know what, let's just do it.
And so we do it. And up until it was last August, we technically hired our true, real first employee. So we'd done this all ourselves for up until January last year.
So can you give us a sample of some of your more popular dishes? Like what is is there any 1 or 2 that stick out where that does better than the rest?
Oh, we have a Truck 11 chicken. Truck 11 chicken is it's a take on chicken Devon. It's a broccoli, cream sauce with chicken over rice, with cheddar cheese. That's probably one of the signature dishes that started this whole thing. Everybody loved it. We cycle through 850 recipes. It's hard to tell you which one.
Do you do a lot of Middle Eastern stuff, like spices that, you know, little white boys like me, or actually like Matt, because I'm a foodie, might say, hey, I never even heard of that, or I've heard of coriander, but I've never had it. You know, like I'm a big cumin and coriander guy. I love what it does to food. in curries and whatnot.
Coriander.
What kind of food is that? I'm not familiar with them terms.
Exactly.
Yeah,
how-
no, we do a lot. She makes biryani. She makes a lot of different things. She's artful in the kitchen. Let me tell you.
Mhm.
I'm telling you right now, the mac and cheese with pulled pork, barbecue pulled pork on top. This is what I'm saying. You eat these meals, and you don't know how the hell are you losing weight.
Mhm.
They're awesome.
Well,
Some
you
of
look at
these
that meal
meals.
and you say, how are they making money on this? Like, how could you deliver such a power-packed, flavorful, healthy meal at that cost? With no one's got to go in the kitchen. I don't have to do anything. I can just show up and know I'm getting a good balanced meal.
Right.
Like that should be a no-brainer.
I kind of want to get my hands on this. Maybe I'll see my toes one day again when I wake up
I
in the
doubt
morning.
it. I doubt it.
I know. I got my own
You
gravitational
haven't seen
pull
your
at this
toes in
point.
10 years, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't
I've lost 50 pounds over the last year between. I've always eaten my meals. I've just eaten my meals poorly.
Right. And you
It-
can't
it
eat
means
7 of
I
them.
eat at 10 o'clock at night and then go to bed, right? So,
Wait, you can't do that? Well, now we know.
Is that wrong? Should I not have done that?
what was it?
Eating it. No, he eats in bed. Matt eats in bed.
Oh, pretty close.
You wake up with a piece of broccoli stuck in a place where broccoli doesn't belong.
Where did this
He's
pepperoni
not
come
eating.
from?
He's not eating
Maybe
broccoli
it does.
in bed.
Maybe it does belong there. You never know.
Who am I to judge, right?
Did I
Exactly.
have pepperoni last night with cheese? What?
Honey, where's the zucchini? None of your damn business.
Never question why the baby wipes are in the bathroom.
Exactly. And that's why if you drop something in like your friend's garbage can, like in the bedroom or the bathroom, you don't get it. I don't care what you dropped in that garbage can, it's staying. Your car keys, nope. That's all right. I'll get another car.
Yeah.
Yeah, $500 a key. Yeah, good for you.
That's it.
Do we have the website up, Josh?
We put him in. See, I even put a sign over the window saying what my name is. God damn that mustache makes you retarded.
Why do you
So
say things like that? Why do you hurt me?
I listen.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
Why do you hurt me?
all
You hurt me
all
like
of the
that.
websites that we've been mentioning, Blue's been putting them in the comments. They're all in the comments.
All right, cool.
You know what's something interesting that pops into my head, Robbie? I don't know how long you've been out of the game. How long you been retired for?
20, 9/11, 20.
Okay, so you're out a long time. So, FEMA came out with a whole bunch of stuff like the National Incident Management System, Incident Command System, and all these different things, continuity of operations planning. And it sounds like to me with what you're doing, that should be part of the emergency response plan for any community when a disaster strikes or any kind of unforeseeable disaster strikes. And there's so many grants out there from FEMA, from Homeland Security, that if you could show how your business model would integrate with what they have already, I'm sure that would be a big help to you, because this is something that people should know about on a national level.
So you volunteer to write the grants?
Well, actually, it's funny. I do
there
have
you
a
go.
grant writer on staff with Black Ice Consultants. I do. And we're looking into some of that stuff ourselves when it comes to resiliency training and stuff.
Awesome. Maybe you guys can touch base after. and
Yeah,
just-
absolutely.
if nothing else, just trade names
awesome.
and say, maybe this guy could help or this one knows somebody. Like, again, the networking, Rich is good at that. You just never know who's going to pick up the phone or says, hey, the show, we were in here a couple of weeks ago and Campy had a show and he had somebody on and they started talking about Special Olympics. And the
Wait,
guest,
did you say campy?
Yeah. And then, yeah, I
no.
said Campy.
Oh, you say
No,
campy?
no.
Can we beat
don't do
that?
This is,
Are you
Is there
sure?
a 5-second on-air
No,
delay?
no. And his guest, unbeknownst to him, had a child that's special needs and is very involved. And it turns out they hooked up after the show, not like that. And now they're working together. Random, I have a guy, you have a guy. This is near to me. This is near to me. And boom, our relationship begins.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that just pop into my head. I've been doing a lot of work with reps for responders with the owner, Frank. And this is something I'm sure he would love to hear about. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about the resiliency stuff we're putting together. And I think that would fit in very well with some of the stuff we're talking about.
100%. We've talked about grants, but as you know, to hire an attorney to sit there and
Yep.
write maybe 100, you're going to get maybe one break out of that batch of 100. And,
Oh, it's frustrating. And the competition is fierce for these
Yeah,
grants.
sure.
Absolutely.
Not only that, but
try it.
each grant has got its own like set of guidelines it has to fill. So you can't even have, you can have sort of a template and then swap out some things, but
No.
each individual one needs its own special touch to make sure it fits the criteria for that grant. and the work alone in that, and then you send it and it gets kicked back saying, oh, this doesn't fit our criteria because of A, B, and C. And then you got to rewrite it. And then you got to, it's ridiculous. But like I said, that one needle in a haystack, that one time that hits, you're like,
Right.
God damn, that's what we needed.
Well, my guy is good. I don't want to brag or anything, but he's one of the best. He gets a lot of grants, which is why I had to snag him up as soon as I could.
Let's
And
do it.
one of our hurdles was too is when you get into this, but to solicit outside of the state of Florida, you get a solicitation license to solicit for charity.
Something else popped into my head when you said solicit. I'm sorry, I went completely left. I apologize.
I didn't see illicit. It's
yeah, exactly.
But there's 38 states in out of the 50 that require a solicitation license. Well, you got to pay to have them all filed.
Oh,
You know,
Jesus.
so
Yeah.
it's just one. It's one thing. I mean, I've paid my attorney out of fire department meals, and will continue to pay to get this thing done. And it's just like I said. It's
Well, you should jump on Canada before they become the 51st state. You might be able to get under the wire, you know?
Right.
I mean, does anybody? Let's be honest.
They
Here,
won't
not, to,
eat
not,
it.
not to deviate from the topic, but does anybody really want Canada as the 51st state? Is California not enough? Do we really got to take on a whole nother group of liberals?
as far as I'm concerned, let
Let's
them
not
have
forget here that-
California too.
Yeah,
That whole West
exactly.
Coast.
Yeah.
Give them
But
California.
our
exactly.
international is all of Canada. The Firefighters Association, the international is all United States and Canada. Not a lot of people don't know that. So yeah, so it's
The problem with Canada is if there's not mayonnaise all over it, they won't touch it.
Oh, there's
No,
a lot more
absolutely
worse than Canada.
Gross.
Uh,
Gross.
You guys have anything you want to share? Is anything, any events coming up that we can post about? Anything coming up,
well,
Rich?
we've kind of somewhat partnered up with a couple of entities. One of which is Hooker Heroes. They're a phenomenal 501c. They basically PTSD guys.
What's that
on
name
the
again,
wall.
Rich?
I'm sorry, Hooker Heroes.
Hook Heroes.
Hoka Heroes. Got it.
Okay,
I thought you said
so
something else.
the guys, I got involved with them during fishing charities. Firefighters, police officers, or military that have PTSD, I'll take them fishing, and they basically start with the bottom up. And I think Tom, you and I talked about this. Is
About
you
my
know,
bottom?
some-
Yeah.
yeah,
Something
I
about
talked
my
about your bottom.
Bottom.
Something. I'm totally out of disarray now.
He's
that was
singing
just
about
a-
your bottom. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That zucchini's got them all worked up.
So basically,
New girls.
they take a member that has PTSD and stick with that person from start to finish. And this is another entity that, nobody thinks about is your nutrition. And this is where we come in at Heroes Feeding Heroes, and we can partner with them to help them get to their goal. And it's a complete package of what they're doing. Another entity is Crew to 40. That's a firefighter charitable organization. They basically have a fire truck. Our logo just went on their fire truck for promotion. And basically what they do is anything from they find out a sick kid in the area. They'll, through donations, grab a bike for the kid or whatever he wants and drive it over in the fire truck and deliver it to the kid. Anything from birthdays. Another thing here in the state of Florida is when you have to pay for your own academy here. My first day on the job was my first day at the academy, and I counted for Manning back at the firehouse. Yeah, in Florida, you have to pay for your fire academy and police academy before you're even hired. So they come up with scholarships for high school kids that want to be a firefighter. I mean, I think his statistic was out of 10 kids, I think nine wanted to be firefighters and one wanted to be a cop. But that's
So one of them had his head on straight. All right.
I think that's skewed. Could I see the source data?
So we're Robbie, I'm assuming Chicago Fire Department, 1980s. Your academy was welcome to the fire department. Get on a truck. Was there a legit academy back then?
It was the academy was being, I think it was the new academy was built later, but they do have the academy. When I, like you said, when I got on, here's your helmet, go. You're still a probie, but you didn't break in without getting right into it. So yeah, it was.
So back in the
fun.
60s here, when we were having the riots in New York City, police department, I remember a guy I worked with, his father was in that academy class. There were, then it was maybe 6-week academy class, and he was there about 2 weeks. They basically said, all right, guys, here's a gun, here's a shield, get out on the street. In the middle of the academy, you were literally in the police academy for a month and then stuck out on a street corner with a gun and told, do the best you can. And then when everything settled down, all those guys were called back to the police academy to finish their training.
Yeah, that went disastrously. I had
Yeah.
a friend who was there at the time, and he
Crazy.
said, "That's not how you do it. We were out on the street. This is how you do it."
Well, yeah, trial by fire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We got to do some setting up for the second half. You guys are very welcome to stick around for the second half of the show and be part of what we're doing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and letting us try and help out. We appreciate it, and we'll see what we can get done.
Yeah. So everybody's sticking around then, yeah.
I appreciate you. That's for sure.
Oh, awesome, man. So we're gonna go to black. We're gonna take a break. If you guys are back on, we're gonna continue what we're doing, and feel free to listen, chime in, do whatever. Just trying to keep your clothes on.
Yeah, please, kid show.
not-
Thank
not
You
not
didn't
you.
tell me this. I'm out. I'm going.
Not a
Leave
word.
it.
Not you, Rich.
Look at our final manatee.
All right, guys, we'll be right back.
All right, I'm hungry now. Listen to all that fancy talk of what kind of chicken did he say? Divana? Chicken Divana?
I don't know. I'm fat. I'm just dreaming about food all the time. So
Yeah,
you know.
that's what you got going on. All right, guys, we're back. Matt's with us. Matt is the owner and CEO of Black Ice Consultants. I would tell you what Matt does, but Matt's here to tell you himself. Matt, what the hell do you do?
So right now we're primarily a training and consulting firm. We were founded in 2009 with some of the guys that I was working with in the private sector and security to do security consulting. We're sitting around one day, we're branching out, we're getting a lot of offers, and we had to come up with a really, really cool name. And one of the biggest names in security in 2008, 2009 was Blackwater International.
Obviously.
And then they had their little boo-boo, and I said, we should capitalize on that. So we got the first part down, right? We're like Black Ops, like this, Black Ice, because we're always cool under pressure. So we came up with Black Ice back then. We got a website. Fast forward, from 2008 to 2011, I transitioned into a career in law
I
enforcement.
knew you transitioned. I knew it. I knew you from somewhere.
Stop! You're gonna make me blush.
Apparently, he didn't lose his tits. In the transition, he kept the tits.
Son of a bitch. Made me lose my train of thought. Thanks, Tom. So fast forward into 2011, I transitioned into law enforcement. I've been involved in 9 separate police shooting incidents. Never a trigger man, but always unfortunate enough to be there and be involved in things. And early on in my career in law enforcement, I thought to myself, the training I got, while good, was not enough. So I got bit by the training bug. There were so many opportunities to go to training and get all this free training. And I eventually exhausted the catalog. So I was invited to instructor training. And I fell into that. And apparently, when you're a sociopath and you don't care what other people think, you're very good at talking in front of large groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
So
no one pays you when you're outspoken, but
but everybody has an opinion when you are. So we transitioned into a training firm right now. We're probably going to get back into consulting. We are doing a couple of different clients in regards to consulting for safety and security. My team is growing, and right now we're doing a wide variety of training. One of our biggest sellers is we run the New York State Concealed Carry course for any civilian that wants to come and get it.
Do you do retired cops, LEOSA and stuff
We
like that?
do LEOSA, absolutely. In fact, when we have a security school in New York, we're one of the only mobile security schools where we can go to different locations, whether in New York or across the country. We combine LEOSA with our in-service training for security. So you have a lot of retired cops who go into the private sector. They become security, and it's a twofer for them. We don't charge anything extra. They leave with their in-service certificate and their LEOSA card that day. We're also building new classes regularly based on what we see online, what cops want. We also open it up to EMS and other first responders. We're building a tactical emergency medicine class for first responders to integrate during emergencies, to go into those warm zones, not quite the hot zones. And we got a lot of good stuff coming. One of the big pushes that I'm working on right now is I've partnered up with a nonprofit called Reps for Responders, and we designed a one-day seminar to get law enforcement leadership, fire leadership, military, everybody. It's open to anybody. Our target demographic for this course is we want people who are capable of making decisions for an organization, whether it be union people or management like your captains and your chiefs or your civilian commissioners, to come in and see services that are available to them that they may not know about, especially in the way of suicide prevention. My phone just went off a little while ago. Apparently, we may have lost another brother today in the law enforcement world. I don't know a lot of details about that. I don't want to talk a lot about that because it's rapidly evolving right now. But
that literally happened within the hour, no?
Yeah, like around 11-ish is what I'm hearing. And, police suicides are on the rise. First responder, EMS has a huge problem.
Didn't we just have one last week out in Long Island? At Massapequa?
Yeah.
Officer took his life.
It's happening so often. It is so difficult to keep up with it.
Is that really, though, directly connected to training? I feel like the suicide prevention it has nothing to do with training as much as it does.
Well, that's what the training is.
Mental health.
That's what the training will be. It'll be resiliency. It'll be saying, hey, listen, these are programs that are available to you through nonprofits such as Reps for Responders and what have you, where we will come in, we will equip your agency with psychiatrists. We'll give you guys training to help them get better with life, financial consulting, all these different things that people don't exist.
So you're designing the program for them to implement. So you're not bringing in the psychiatrist. You're saying this is a package, so to speak.
Yes.
Where these training options are going to help, and we're going to help you get that training.
And get these, absolutely, and get these organizations involved. Like, like I tell my buddy who runs reps, Frank Vos, he has an amazing story, and it's really like, tragedy to triumph story. Great guy. I don't want to tell his story, but he's very big on suicide prevention, and he's on top of this stuff, and he really wants to make a change in the first responder field when it comes to this stuff. He really wants, like, there's so much stuff out there. Agencies don't even know what's available. Like look at Robbie's organization. Do people know there's food available for them? No.
I don't know. Do they, Robbie? Is the word out? Is it? I'm assuming social media obviously plays a big role in what you're doing. Is there do you feel like you're constantly educating people on the services that you provide, or do you feel like the people know about it, they're just not enough using it just yet?
Robbie, you got to unmute your mic. Unmute your mic, Robbie.
You can do it, Robbie. We believe in you, Harvey Dent. You'll catch the Batman.
I talk a lot. I was talking
there it
behind
goes.
the scenes here. Yeah,
That's right.
we do have a lot of education going on. We try to educate people on proper nutrition. In the past 8 years, I've learned a lot about proper nutrition. I mean, look, I would have never thought that there is so much crap in the food you eat.
Yeah.
Seed oils. I didn't think anything of canola oil up until several years ago when you started learning what canola oil really is. It's a motor oil. So stay away from it.
For years though, we were lied to about so many things. Was it intentional? Was it not? Was it a financial decision? Butter versus margarine. The oils now. With the saying, corn oil is great. It's better than canola oil or grapeseed or sesame oil. It changes. Depending on who's in power.
Yeah. Eggs are bad. Eggs are good. This is good.
Well, I think a lot of it
bad.
has to do with what's easy. Yeah. Right? It's so much easier to stop at McDonald's and grab a bag of crap because it tastes so good, even though it's killing you, than it is to prepare a meal. Yeah. To make the meal that you're providing maybe a little cheaper at home, but the work that's involved. And a lot of people don't know that how much salt should be in your diet, or what's causing your ankles to swell because you have salt on everything,
or how much White Castle to eat.
It isn't necessarily the salt either, though, right? I mean, if you're using iodized table salt, bad news. Using a good sea salt, great news.
Sure.
Your body needs salt.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. I drink a thing called Element. I'm drinking one of those. That's 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Your body needs salt.
That sounds like a roofie you would take in the club back in the day. Hey, you got that Element on you?
Yeah.
Yo, that Element's off the chain, bro.
Exactly it. Great company, though. Great product.
Mm-hmm. It works, right? Yeah. It works. Educating people and again, making it convenient. And I think that's a big part of it is just a manner of convenience. Just easier to do it the other way. But we've also been bred that way.
Yeah.
My parents didn't know, flavors and spices and what was good and what was bad. They just made what they could afford to make. They fed 4 kids, and look at me. I'm healthy-ish.
Yeah, well, I can't say the same.
Look at our parents, guys. I mean, our parents. When you went to the grocery store and bought a can of corn was can of corn. It wasn't a can of corn with 4,000 bioengineered ingredients in it.
Yep.
A chicken breast wasn't pumped full of 18 milligrams of sodium.
Sodium, yeah, sure.
You
look at them. You go back 10 years where you would buy an oven roasted chicken, and if it was 4 pounds, it was this big. Now for years the 4-pound chicken was this big because they inflated it with so much crap. Right. There's so much weight, and then depending on how you cook it, now you're done cooking it, half of it's gone.
I don't know who this is directed to, but Yorda Bichardo says, "Tell Velger I said hi."
Thanks for the support, Peachy. And talking about first responder mental health, there's a lot of dynamics that go on into it. When you eat like crap, you feel like crap. That adds to it. Right. When you don't take care of yourself, and I'm guilty of that. I mean, just look at me. I got my own gravitational pull at this point in my life. I'm so heavy. But there's so much things out there that people don't take advantage of, and I think that's one of the main goals behind that resiliency seminar I designed. I mean, it's 2 hours to start with on this is what affects first responders: your post-traumatic stress disorder, your career cumulative stress disorder, other underlying issues, family, financial problems. Everybody's situation and circumstance is different. Nobody knows what the thought process that goes into it. But if you can do even a little bit to make somebody's life better, to make them stop. I mean, don't think anybody's worse to first responders than first responders themselves.
Oh,
I know,
100%.
you know, like
100%.
how many times have you come into your locker and it's flipped,
100%.
or you know, there's
Nobody helps a cop like cops and their families.
Yeah, but if
nobody fucks a cop
Yes.
like another cop.
Yes.
And listen, if you come into work and your locker's flipped upside down, there's a reason, and chances are you probably deserve it.
Yeah, I would say 9 out of 10 times, but
Chances
I
are
always
you
personally thought
earned
that
it.
was cowardly.
No.
But you know, like, you know, the things that we do to each other because of the jealousy. You know, everybody's so concerned in the first responder field of, oh, why him? Why not me? It's a very poor attitude.
Well,
and,
yes.
you know, this, you know, and I'm not saying that's an underlying cause. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody.
But that's natural. That's human nature, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Anyone that wants something and someone else gets it, you feel a
Yeah.
bit of depression, or you know, why wasn't it me? Or,
oh, I felt my whole career, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is
this is your whole career. Every time I see you, all you do is complain about your situation. So I can attest that this is most of this guy's career.
Hey, yeah, well, you're not wrong.
What about concealed carry? I would think that in the current environment now, where you know off-duty and retired cops, and even just the Joe Blow citizen, are being told to carry CC insurance and things like that. Like you
So
never
there's
have
a
to
lot of
worry about
issues.
that.
There's a lot of issues with the concealed carry insurance. A couple, you know, at least for New York, and where I do most of my work. Well, I do the concealed carry for pretty much every state except for California and Hawaii. Even though there was a great landmark case that just came down that, you know, California may start issuing non-resident concealed carry permits to people.
Lovely.
It's very difficult to navigate the system of interstate concealed carry.
Well, I think Florida does that, guys. I think if you have a Florida
Mhm.
non-resident concealed
Yep.
carry, I don't know. I think maybe there's like 30 states, I think, that
So-
honor it.
So I call Florida, Pennsylvania, and Utah the holy trinity of concealed carry.
Yep.
And there's overlap between them. If you have those 3 permits, which they're very easy to get, there's no training to get Florida and Pennsylvania. There is a course for Utah. I'm a Utah concealed carry instructor. You know, we guide people on that as part of our New York class for free. We also give them Connecticut straight off the bat. You know, I'm very proud of the product that we put forward with our New York State concealed carry class, and that class funds all the other fun stuff that we get to do. We do CQB training and other things like that. But I have a goal to get as many concealed carry permits into as many different people's hands as possible, because statistics show where there's high firearm ownership, there's low crime.
So do you have a pass-fail thing, or is it a
We do.
complete course, didn't complete course?
So
Because I would think that in this field that you're talking about,
yes.
somebody signs up for that and they have an expectation when they leave that they're getting something. Do you have the ability to say, you know what? You really shouldn't have a gun. I mean, you wouldn't say that, but
Yeah.
there's
Hey, have you
gotta
thought
be a-
about pepper spray?
exactly.
Have you thought about a
There's got to be a
taser?
fail safe that says, hey, you know what? This person should not have a gun. Now, whose job is to dictate that?
Well, I don't like to argue the Second Amendment of the Constitution, where it says everybody could have a gun. You
That's
know,
a different show.
Yeah, that's.
And I think we all agree, though. We all fall on that. Yeah, as much as the 2A is great, there are things that should change in that. You know, we register cars for a reason.
2
We
way's
should
great,
register
3
guns. We
ways
should
better.
training.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things is you know my biggest job as an instructor, especially when I give concealed carry training, is my goal is to keep you out of jail. And it's very interesting that you touched on the insurance, because New York State has pretty much banned insurance. A couple of years ago, the Attorney General's office said that if you have insurance, that is a sign of premeditated murder. And we are not allowing that in New York. And New York banned it. And it's kind of what kicked off that whole war with the NRA. So you can get concealed carry insurance for everywhere in the country except for New York. Nobody will insure you in New York. So that's a very interesting thing that you touched on. It's something people have to be aware of. Are there workarounds? Absolutely. There's things that we recommend in the class for people to do to protect themselves when it comes to insurance, or maybe having a lawyer on retainer. That's huge, especially in the private security field, where you may give an armed guard a gun and handcuffs and tell them to do security work. Like, you might have to detain people, you might have to get into a gunfight, and then the company doesn't back you. So it's kind of on the guard themselves to kind of pick up the tab.
So Rich and Robbie are sitting there going, wow, you guys got to go through all that to carry a gun in New York?
So
You're in Florida. You're
I'm
literally
just-
the baby.
I'm just thinking-
the baby comes out of the vagina holding a 9mm in Florida.
absolutely, it's a
Yeah,
pacifier.
well,
down there.
the big thing down here is, let's not forget about our stand the ground laws.
Yeah.
And we had an influx during COVID of out-of-staters moving to the state that had no clue about these stand your ground laws. And now all of a sudden you get somebody in a road rage going to trying to break somebody's window in the car,
And
and
they think it
they're looking
flies.
at a 9 mil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the toughest things to explain when we give these classes for New York, Connecticut, New Jersey is those are must retreat states. You have a legal duty and obligation to retreat, even somewhat in your own home. Castle doctrine exists, but good luck with the jury up
Well,
here.
Rich and I touched base a couple of weeks ago when the fishing, and I'm not going to poo-poo the industry that you're in, but the fishing captain down in Florida, that everyone saw the video of him having an interaction with another boater. It got heated. He actually got on that young man's boat, and it escalated. We talk about you never know on a car stop where you get to a fender bender and some guy pulls out a 9mm. You're looking at it. That the guy that was captain in that boat, who actually made some accusations about his military background that may or may not be true. He's lucky that the person whose boat he got on did not have a gun. And if he did have a gun,
100%.
he would be lucky if he didn't get shot that day.
We tell
Well, if
people
you
the
look at
best
the
way to win a
social
fight is to
media,
avoid it.
If you looked at the social media interaction on that incident, 95% of all responses, which there was millions of them, he went viral, was, "You're lucky that wasn't my boat because I carry."
So how does that play out? So you're talking about the Castle Doctrine and stand your ground and whatnot. Does that stand true for a boat? Like, is there case law on this that the fact that he was on his property in his boat and threatening? Now I don't think he put his hands on him. But the
Actually, he
fact that
did. They did. They saw the tape. FWC did determine that he did grab a hold of him.
to touch the other guy.
Yeah.
So in that point, you don't want to be the guy that's part of that case. You don't want to be the one that stands there and says, "I did my." You'd rather be the guy that shot the savage that came through your bedroom window at 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
That's not questionable.
We have a strong emphasis on de-escalation and avoiding the fight. We have a really great curriculum that we put out that carries across multiple state lines, whether it's a stand your ground state you're dealing with or a must retreat state like New York. And again, the way to win that fight is to avoid it. If you weren't a tough guy before you had a gun, having a gun isn't going to make you a tough guy all of a sudden.
100%.
So if you're not a tough guy, don't act like a tough guy now, because that's your tool of last resort. That's in case of emergency, break glass. Let me do this because I think I'm going to die through no fault of my own.
Well, the thing is, you have to retrain the way you think. So
Yes.
as a retired cop, I've seen things happen, and I would say to myself, is that something worth getting involved in?
Right.
And then my next thought is, first of all, 99% of the times I leave my house, I'm armed.
Right.
And I would say to myself, well, if I wouldn't do this with a gun, I'm not going to do it without a gun.
Right.
Like it shouldn't
And,
change.
and let's be real. In
behavior.
2025, if you get involved in something off duty, unless you save a baby or the department's not indemnifying you, they're hanging you.
Like I
Well,
said
and
earlier,
indemnification's funny because that changes too, state to state to state.
yeah, but they're going to, they always take the default in municipalities. The default is to fire the cop, or in this case, the civilian would be charged. And then it's up to you to pay for your defense to show that you did the right thing. You don't get that back. You could spend, and without getting into details, Rich could attest to the fact that you sometimes have to hire lawyers to defend things that you either A, didn't do or you did legally, but you don't get that back.
Well, if you break down Article 35 of just to go for New York, because that's where my matter subject expertise is, Article 35 of New York clearly states that self-defense is an affirmative defense. It's something to be entered at your plea at trial during arraignment. Well, guilty or not guilty, not guilty by insanity, not guilty by self-defense.
Yeah, but in New York, you have a jury of 12 that are going to listen to that story and say, "Well, was it self-defense?" Like you can follow all the rules to the letter of the law, but then you're going to put that decision on, especially here in New York, where we're not very well liked.
No.
Then you have to convince 12 people in the Bronx that what you did was legit and it was quantified.
I was
It
always
just doesn't
told
exist.
that jurors are 12 people that were too stupid to be able to get out of jury duty. So, so I don't know if I want to take my chance with that crowd.
You know what's funny though?
Yeah.
When my wife got called for jury duty, she was kind of upset by it because it disrupted her life. And I said to her, "Well, if it was me on trial, I would want you on my jury. I'd want me on that jury. I someone that's level-headed that can see the difference between right and wrong." And make a decision on that.
Wait,
Not
is
someone
it
that-
you with the mustache or you without the mustache? Because
Oh.
that does make a difference.
Well, it depends on what the charge is. If it's a pedophile charge, this fucking thing's coming off. I'm just telling you.
Jesus Christ.
I'm just gonna say I was hanging out with my fireman friends. They said the mustache would be cool, so I grew it.
I mean, something to even consider. in the year we're living in, and we're in a court of public opinion constantly. No matter what you do in this world, whether you're a first responder,
you're judged.
you're judged. So would you want a jury trial? Maybe you might roll your dice better with the judge, with the letter of the law.
Well,
and waive the jury trial.
I think it's where you're at. Do I want a jury trial in New York City? Absolutely not.
No way.
I almost feel like if you're guilty, you want a jury trial, because then it becomes more just theater. If you're innocent, you want a judge.
Well, I think you
judge, because you only. If I'm innocent, I would rather have to convince one person
of 12
who at least is trained.
But here's the thing: you have to convince one of one, or you have to convince one of 12.
I'd take my chance with one of one.
No, I
As
wouldn't.
long as you don't have to prove who you voted for, you'd be fine.
Yeah, well, that's a strong point.
That's another problem.
That's a strong point, 'cause
politics.
what judge are you going to get?
Yeah, politics have unfortunately in the world of law enforcement invaded everything, and there was always, especially since the days of Tammany Hall in the late 1800s, there was always supposed to be that separation.
All right, guys, slow down. I scored 8.9 on my SATs. Don't start getting all
1800s.
I know, really, bro. What the hell?
I'm sorry, I have a GED. I'll try to do better, sir. Sorry, more. Yeah, I mean, you got to think back to the late 1800s when the Municipal Police Reform Act was passed, and especially in New York. There's supposed to be a layer of separation between law enforcement and politicians so that politics can evade it. It's like your first obligation in law enforcement to the law.
Yeah, but if you do all that, then you're relying on the politicians to actually enforce the laws that they put in place. Look at the Brady Bill. Right, the Brady Bill, 1983. James Brady was shot when Hinckley shot Reagan. He shot Reagan. He shot Brady. He shot a Secret Service agent, and he shot a DC cop.
Yep.
That Brady Bill, the Brady Bill is great. First of all, it opened up there, and believe it or not, Chuck Schumer is the one that introduced it, and it failed in 87 or 88, 89. It failed in 89, and he pushed it again in 93, and it helped because it made background checks. It made, if you had felony convictions, if you were convicted of a domestic violence, if you were dishonorably discharged, all these things that went through. Here's the problem with that. It's really great. In the first 2 years, they had over 400 Brady Bill violators. You know how many got convicted?
How many?
7. Why? Plea bargain. Didn't fit this narrative, didn't fit that narrative. As great as it is on paper, they just don't enforce it. It also was supposed to come with a 7-year mandatory sentence on anyone that was convicted of the illegal firearm possession. That went out the window. You can't effectively police if the laws that are written by these politicians isn't upheld when it gets to that point.
Or rules for thee and not for me.
We've done our job up to that point, and then you're putting it into the hands of the very people that wrote the law, and then they just disregard it. You can't police like that.
I mean, and there's also the old idiom of like, there's truth in fact, but not truth in law, and there's truth in law, but not truth in fact in a lot of instances.
I don't even know what that means.
So like, you could be guilty of sin, but still be innocent, right? Like OJ.
Right? Casey Anthony.
Yeah, Casey Anthony.
Letitia James.
Yeah.
Hey-o.
It's coming.
Oh, it's coming. Well, is it though? So New York
She
State
set the standard.
Dude, but they just passed their budget, and in that budget was the bill that says they can spend up to $10 million to defend a state employee in lawsuit.
So would you call that qualified immunity?
Let's be honest.
She is. We're going to pay for her. We paid for Cuomo. Cuomo's was $30 million. Now, granted, all of Cuomo's cases were directly related to him being governor. What he did in the governor's mansion, what he did in the governor's office. Letitia James did something as a private citizen.
Yeah.
It's listen. If she was being sued for something that she did in the scope of her job, I have no problem with them paying for the defense. This has nothing to do with that.
None of them are going to jail.
No.
Let's be honest. None of them are going to jail. This is all just theater. It's political theater back and forth. I pick one.
Dude, the mayor of Newark, Raz
It's gonna be a lot easier to
Baraha.
bankrupt, though.
Yeah. Yes.
Dude, the mayor, he got locked. He got arrested yesterday in Jersey or Friday in Jersey.
Well, listen, credit to Alina Habba. I was dragging her for a while because she was all over the Tate brothers' dicks. And I don't understand that at all. But kudos to her for actually seeing that through. No one's above the law. Remember? Isn't that the standard?
They showed up at a private business. That jail is owned by a company called, I think, GEO. It's a private business. He showed up. That group was told, get off our property. So he gets his soundbite when he runs for governor of him getting arrested for the right of the people.
That's all it is.
It was
yes.
That's like going to Amazon and getting locked up in the parking lot. When the Amazon people say get off our property, you get off the property.
All
Simple
of
as that.
all of this. You look at the idiot Jasmine Crockett.
Oh my God.
All of this
I don't
stuff.
even know who that
all-
is. I don't watch the news anymore.
You're lucky.
It's
Stresses me.
All this is future political sound bites. They want to be able to use these in their next election cycle so they could show these clips of them saying this outrageous shit or doing these outrageous things. Look at when I stood against MAGA Republicans.
Well, you know what's ironic about that idiot in New Jersey the other day, the mayor, is they're standing there screaming at these ICE officers and detention officers. And when they were starting to escort them off the property, he's screaming, "You can't arrest me. I'm a congressman." Well, you guys just tried to arrest the president.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no love lost here.
You know, if I could just segue us back towards training, no, listen, it's great subject matter, and it's important for, especially when people are going to carry a firearm, it's important for them to know and to have these conversations to be able to have access to. But I have a real passion for training, and I found in my lifetime that
And midgets.
and midgets, we don't have to get into that. That training is, there's like gatekeeping involved. I don't know what your experience is. Like, if you wanted to develop yourself professionally in an organization and you're like, hey, I think I'd be a great FTO. Can I get into FTO training? No, the guy who drives the sergeant gets his coffee is going to get that training.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I want to be a detective. Like, can I get into some kind of investigative school? No, we got somebody else that we're grooming for that spot. I'm sorry. Maybe in 10 or 15 years when you're ready to retire. And that is a huge part of the passion in what I do, is to be able to bring great, high-class, affordable training. Did you just take the mustache off?
Strictly hypothetically, I may or may not know people that have become detectives without ever having effected a single arrest.
You and me both.
That's a fact.
You and me both. And it's
yeah.
sad. And
Is he the mayor of New York City?
I think
I think he's got about 8. I think he has about 8 collars in his career. Adams.
I heard he was active back in the
He
day.
was
That's
not
a conversation for when I'm not here.
Dude, he got listen, he was kicked out of the 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement for getting caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
Anywho,
All right?
Anywho,
But they don't talk about that.
I one of the things that I'm very, proud of is I am not the beginning and end of all knowledge, right? I'm very good at designing classes. And one of the things that I do is I bring a lot of like adjunct instructors on board, guys with subject matter expertise. The guy who has like 30 homicide arrests to his name, is going to teach you how to do the same thing.
Mhm.
And I build the curriculum and I design it. And, one of the things that I also like doing is I do bring that to the private sector. I feel there, if you look, just to use, again, New York as an example, you know what it takes to be a security guard if you have no prior experience in law enforcement?
Probably 18 hours of a class.
So you have to first do your 8-hour pre-employment course. Okay, 8 hours. I don't think you're getting much out of 8 hours. From there, you have to do 16 hours of in-service training. The first 8 or 9 hours is a repeat of.
So this is a square badge without a gun?
Yes, square badge without a gun. The next thing you have to do is that 16-hour or 18-hour in-service training, and the first 8 hours is the same thing you just took. It's just literally a repeat of that class. Then the second day is like, little counterterrorism fluff and little things there. Do you think that person's well equipped to go out there and do like insurance investigations?
Absolutely.
Or
100%.
you troll, you troll, Tommy. But no, so a lot of the stuff that we're doing, we're opening it up to social workers who need to know, like we have a special victims class in development. We're calling it Voices of the Voiceless, where if you're a doctor, a nurse, a social worker, this is what we need from you to help when it comes to getting convictions.
Do you show them the doll and say, where were you touched on the doll?
See this doll here? Show me on the doll where the job touched you,
Where was the gun in the doll?
Yeah. And we're bringing and we're trying to bring as much great training to as many people as possible because it's just not out there. It's just not accessible for first responders. EMTs are welcome, fire, police, federal, whoever. If it's useful to you, we're going to give it to you. Just wanted to touch on that before we go back into the politics pit.
So where is
right
your
before I got out, as far as training is, what was big was paramedics. They were taking paramedics, and their theory was it was easier to teach a paramedic to become a medic, a SWAT team medic, than it was to take a cop with no medical background and teach them to become a paramedic. So it was easier for, I guess, to teach
I
us.
actually
how to
like
shoot
that.
guns.
I actually like that.
Rich, you know, it's funny you say that because if you go on that website SideGig and you look at security jobs, they're paying EMTs and paramedics and fire $75 an hour. You know what a retired or active cop is getting?
Probably 35, 40.
35, 50.
Right.
You know, because shooting, as most things are a perishable skill. And, you know, it's easier to teach a paramedic how to shoot than it is to, you know, teach a cop how to do what a paramedic does when that's their everyday bread and butter.
Yeah, but so you talk about paramedics versus, you know, in this world of what we're speaking, paramedics versus an EMT. Nassau County has them. EMTs are also a lot of their police officers. So they literally show up and today they're in a car, tomorrow they're in a bus.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that aspect. I
think
love
it's great.
that. Now medics are very different. They can push drugs. It's a whole different animal to have a separate training session or individual department. But within, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't have a bus at the fire station, and the firefighters are trained to do that. Because I mean, honestly, I don't know.
Firefighters are 1,000 times better at that kind at EMT
Well, I don't know about,
stuff.
I don't know about better, but just in general,
No,
like to
well,
be an
I-
EMT.
I saw it with that helicopter crash. When Jersey City, hypothetically, when Jersey City Fire Department showed up, those guys ran that scene. The cops, we were essentially just, you know, observers.
Hey,
at
Hey
that
guys,
point.
we'll handle traffic.
and they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I mean, to the point that they were ready to jump into the Hudson.
I mean,
It is absolutely amazing.
But that's the difference, because let me
And-
tell you, a firefighter would jump into the Hudson, and an EMT worker that's just an EMT on a bus is never going to jump in the Hudson. That
True.
firefighter is going to
True.
jump in the Hudson. That cop is going to jump in the Hudson.
True.
100%, just like 9/11. You're going to run in. You're going to run in. You don't stop and think, ooh. But EMTs, I think that their specific assignment is on that bus, and that's it. They're not jumping in the water, and rightfully so, because when they get a body out, they need the two-man crew to provide care and get them out.
something recent.
But if you have a truck, a firefighter truck here, and an ambulance there, you know that all 5 of those guys on that truck or that engine or that ladder are qualified to work in that bus.
well,
so
it's a cross link of you know, both the EMS and the rescue of the fire department coming
so
together.
it makes sense to put them
Yeah.
together.
Absolutely.
You know, back in the day, EMS was in New York City was a separate entity. When they put them together with FD guys were not happy about that. EMS guys loved it. They loved it. FD guys were like, this is bullshit. They should have been looking to expand FD and just made everyone firefighter, EMT, and then you had your medics.
Yeah, but that's a
100%.
labor issue. Let's not touch on that. You might piss off the
Well,
union.
I mean, from my world, everybody on my department was a minimum paramedic.
Really?
So right now, you can't even get in a lot of these places. You can't even get a fire job unless you're a paramedic.
So do those guys have to pay for their own training as well?
No.
Yeah. Down here, I know down here a lot of the kids going to the academy have to have at least their EMT before going into the academy.
They're
The
going
medic-
into
The medic can
in
come
the
later.
fire.
But you
Are they
have to
going
have
into the
EMT.
fire academy or are they going into the EMS academy?
No, they're going to the fire academy.
So in order to be a firefighter now, they have to have previous EMT
Yeah.
card. They need that training's got to be in place before they even think about FD.
Yeah, specifically, I know Seminole County's that way. I know Orange really don't care, and I think Polk, they don't even care if you're an EMT out in Polk. They
Just come to
prefer
work,
it.
right? They're happy if you showed up.
Hey, we're glad you're here. Thanks for playing our
Well,
game,
yeah.
guys.
Look, down here, they're hurting. I mean, I've been asked to come back. I ain't starting over.
Yeah. They're like, I broke my back, guys. What more do you want from me?
You know, what really showcased the importance of EMS being cross-trained and having them, you know, better equipped and out there is in recent times was the Boston Marathon bombing. That was what triggered the paradigm shift in emergency response on that level. And that's why, you know, EMTs are getting paid more as armed security. Everybody that day, there was a lot of cops and maybe 3 or 4 buses at that event. And it was a mass casualty incident. And there wasn't enough tourniquets. There wasn't enough stop the bleed kits, you know, all that trauma training, which Black Eyes Consultants provides. You know, there was all these guys standing around with guns, but, you know, those bombers had left. The guns weren't needed. What we needed was, oh, this guy's bleeding out. He just had his leg blown off. We got to get a tourniquet on it. And it really showcased how these EMTs worked under pressure and under fire and the importance of cross training and additional training.
So you mentioned Boston EMS. I did a lot of my I did a lot of my ride-alongs when I was in medic school with Boston EMS. So Boston EMS.
That's
is
where the
like-
accent comes from.
They're
Boston.
elite. Those
no
guys are
accent.
elite. So you have this whole echelon of what they're deemed as EMTs, but they're really paramedics that didn't get hired as paramedics. So to get into the paramedic echelon at Boston EMS, you're like a month or two away from being an emergency room physician. Some of those
Wow.
guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're street doctors. They really are street doctors. That's what they do.
Absolutely.
As opposed to you're a street pharmacist.
I'm a street walker.
With that mustache, you're a street raper.
You must have gone down in price since that mustache came by.
Right. Hey, is that a Boston Scally?
This is not. This actually came from Japan. My son went to Japan a month ago, and he brought me back this hat.
Sorry, Boston Scally.
Is that a Peaky Blinder? Is there a razor in
It's
the
not a
end?
Peaky Blinder. It's not a Boston Scally. There's no
Looks like
tag
you
in it.
would
But
start smashing watermelons.
I should be right. Little Gallagher reference.
Gallagher.
Yeah,
Nice.
I caught it. Nice little hammer on stage.
Someone get me a sledgehammer and a watermelon. It's funny you bring up Rich's accent. I never noticed he had an accent.
Oh yeah, I'm a little bit on the spectrum, so I pay very close attention. When
Oh, you
people
don't go to
talk.
the bar?
I don't go to the bar to see them hoes.
You don't park your car?
No, I don't park my car.
You are wicked retarded, though. I'll
I
tell
am
you that.
wicked. I'm
I'll
wicked
tell you
stupid.
that.
I'm wicked stupid.
He's
Tommy.
something. I don't know what he is.
Wicked
He's something.
piston.
That's wicked awesome.
Oh, you from down Quincy?
Yeah, pisser over there. Let me tell you.
So where does this end for you, Matt? I mean, at some point, like the rules change. It seems like we're just one big incident away from changing everything that we do. Whether you look at George Floyd, the way you handle people, the stand your ground. Who was the guy in Florida?
The retired captain.
No. About 15 years ago, George.
Oh, Zimmerman. When he
Zimmerman.
shot Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy was.
So that changed things. When you have large events like that, it changes the
Zimmerman
dynamic.
was a wingnut.
One, yeah.
Yes,
So
he
one,
was not
Zimmerman was
first.
a wingnut.
He was
One-
not a first responder.
one
That guy was
incident,
looking for
though,
that.
But one
Correct.
incident changes the dynamic of what we do.
And that's part of when you design your own curriculum. It's very tough. You have to stay on top of this.
Constant.
There's a lot of good free resources out there that people don't know about. One of my disciplines is I am an NRA law enforcement instructor as well as an NRA civilian instructor. And one of the things that the NRA has is the NRA ILA.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
Thanks, Fat Jason Bourne. Fat
Jason Bourne.
So one of the things is if you
I think
are,
it's Jason pregnant, actually, not Jason Bourne.
I'm gonna put this right out on your thigh, bro.
Jason knocked up.
One of the things that's really good about the NRA is when you join and you get a membership. Well, first of all, they love first responders, so you get extra benefits. Secondly, you get to pick and choose from one of 4 magazines, and there's Shooting Illustrated, which is like the newest tech. There's American Rifleman, which is like your Soldier of Fortune.
I'm a
stories.
big fan of American Rifleman.
Yeah, so the one I go with is America's First Freedom. Every month, the NRA puts out a publication talking about case law, pending cases across the country, legislation. The next thing they have is the NRA ILA, which is their legal branch, who are always putting out briefs and stuff. And I'm always taking this data and I'm always incorporating it. You have to go back and constantly add to your curriculum. You can't take away, but you got to stay on top of it, whether it's a footnote, if you don't change the slide or what have you. And it's a pain in the ass for me because I got to keep that. God forbid I'm sued one day.
Mhm.
I have to have a version of every version of this class I've given so that it can be presented to a jury. I actually had I had a couple of students who have been locked up since I gave them the class, and they didn't pay attention. They didn't listen to me, or they just simply chose to ignore it and did what they had to do to get through the class.
Or they listened to every word you said.
Or they did. I hope they do. Those two are an anomaly. One of the big things that I like to implement in training is I don't talk at you. It's not death by PowerPoint. It's an interactive experience. You get out of it what you put in. So we work the room, we walk around, we talk to everybody, we get opinions, a lot of open-ended questions, mostly because it's tough to fill that 18 hours, that New York wants, but mostly because I want to make sure you're paying attention. I want to make sure you're absorbing it. And people do give a lot of incorrect answers. So I could shoot a guy if I do. No, that's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying.
No what ifs.
If there's a ninja hanging upside down from a helicopter, I could shoot him between the eyes. Well, first of all, we just practiced with the laser gun. You're not hitting anything yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's not jump to that. Secondly, every situation is different. Every situation is different.
Well, it can't hurt to have that. I mean, if you're ever in a position where you're actually charged with something,
Yes.
whether you're a civilian or not, every piece of paper that you can hang on your wall, and
Yeah.
your defense attorney can say, "Oh, so and so was trained in A, B, and C, so this doesn't really make."
Or it could work against you. Let's say I told you don't do that and you did it, and it's like you're screwed.
All you can do is say, "I taught this. Here's the curriculum. This is what
Yep.
I taught." If you decided to go off that curriculum, look, you get your driver's license.
Yeah.
They tell you don't drink and drive, and if you go drink and drive and you can't hold the DMV accountable because you took your DMV 5-hour course
Mhm.
and you still killed someone DWI.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. People just don't pay attention. They go off the reservation. Like I said, one of my biggest, especially with the civilian market that I cater to, my biggest goal is it's my job to keep you out of jail. And thank God I have a great staff with John and Seth and a couple of the other adjuncts. And we put together a really great package. I mean, shooting instructors, especially NRA instructors, they're a dime a dozen. I have so many credentials that I would pass out. We'd be here for another 3 hours if I had to list them all.
I'm about to pass that now. You'll only be there for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, but professional development is important because everything you get is a tool to put in your toolbox. I don't give you the way, I give you a way, and I'm very proud of that because we don't put you in a box. We give you options, just like you have force options. If you're in law enforcement, you can jump from pepper spray to taser to this, to that, We don't put you in a box. We just try to keep you out of jail as a civilian.
Which is very funny. Well, not funny, but when you talk to firefighters, and some of my really good friends are firefighters, and we often have this conversation.
Fake news. You have no friends.
You're right. I have one friend.
I think he wanted to be a fireman.
He's right there.
Of course he did.
Their dynamics don't change, right? Fighting a fire doesn't change.
No.
How you respond to it doesn't change. People, like I said earlier, they get happy when the fire department shows up. Why? Because we called you because we need help. We don't have that. Your curriculums in FD, certain things will change as maybe building codes and things like that. But fighting a fire hasn't changed since fire was invented.
Rescue
right?
always changes though when you talk to them.
So yeah, so
It's changing.
maybe-
It's changing.
is it
Especially after that young firefighter in Kansas City just got stabbed in the back.
Yeah. But that wasn't in the way he did his job. It just happened to be that he was a firefighter on duty and was stabbed while he was doing his job, not because how he was doing his job. Where with police, it's how you and again, you could do your job to the letter of the law. If someone's annoyed at you, Cincinnati, the kid was he's getting chased by Cincinnati police, stolen car. He's got a gun. They foot pursued him. He takes the gun out. Cincinnati PD shoots him, kills him. 2 days later, that kid's father ran over a deputy sheriff from a neighboring department, 57 years old, 30 years on the job, was killed by the father of that mutt.
Yeah.
Right? For what? For what? Now, think about
Because of ignorance and the media and other things.
Think about the Cincinnati cop that was involved in the original shooting. So he has to live with the fact that he took a life. And it doesn't matter how in the right you are. Taking a life is taking a life. Whether the person deserves it or not, you don't know what the psychological implications are going to be on you. So you have an officer here that took a life. He has to deal with that. He has to get over that, and he'll be
It'll be a
fine.
lifetime struggle for him.
But now it's added on. Why? Because another cop is dead, directly related to the incident that took place that he was involved in. So now you got this cop that took the life of this thug who pointed a gun at him and did his job. Everything was fine. And now he's got to be thinking that incident caused the death of another cop 2 towns over from this guy's father.
That's wild.
You got to live with that shit.
I mean,
you talk about PTSD and you think about trade. That cop is fucked. I don't care. You can drink beers with this guy. You can go out and hang out with him. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
He has to live with the death of the kid whose life he took, completely justified, and he also has to deal with compartmentalizing his involvement, and it wasn't his involvement, but the death of another cop.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a wild domino effect that spiraled out of that and an anomaly. But, it's funny. EMS first response protocols are changing constantly, too. I mean, in a lot of locations, they were calling them the tactical social worker coming out to deal with the emotionally disturbed. And that presents its own new set of issues because they're telling officers in a lot of jurisdictions, don't respond. We're sending in the psychologist,
social worker,
social worker, the psychologist on staff today. And you're going to respond to it. And then I think back, it was maybe 2 years ago in Manhattan, they were dealing with an emotionally disturbed person in an ambulance, and the EMT got locked in with the guy, and he stabbed the EMT, and they couldn't even get into the ambulance to rescue her. So that's another class we're in development. We have in development is recognizing aggressive, deadly behavior for all first responders, falling under the crisis spectrum of training, and how to recognize pre-attack indicators on just a human standing there talking to them. Bleeding
So this
body,
isn't even
shoulder.
like a cop. This is a first responder, and fire department. You guys never had to worry about this shit. Right?
No,
we talked
it's-
earlier in the intro.
It's cross first response spectrum.
You guys showed up, did your job, went home. Everybody loved you. There were no worries. There were no issues. And now that target is they've for some, I don't even know why.
Well,
but
they're the bad men that are going
they've-
to take him to the hospital again.
maybe. But,
And
it was simple back then, right, guys? You showed up, you did your job, you went back. You talked
Yeah,
about the firehouse, you bullshitted, you cleaned the truck, you did whatever you did, and then you waited for the next run. And
Until you get that one pissed off box rider that you shoot him up with Narcan and take his high away. All of a
Oh,
sudden,
yeah, they don't like
now
that.
You're a bad guy.
Yeah, you're a bad guy.
That's what's happened with them.
and then he RMAs, and then an hour later you're back on that same job, and the guy OD'd on the corner, and
Yeah.
now you're the bad
Right.
guy.
it's
Yeah.
funny
Like-
they can't RMA when they get Narcan, because once the overdose starts happening, if they wander off, they're going to die again. And there's interesting case law that I'm watching coming out of New Jersey where a police department got sued. Some rich kid overdosed on something. I don't know if it was oxy or heroin. I don't have the specifics in front of me. He overdosed. Cops Narcan him with EMS. The guy's like, I don't want to go to the hospital. Like, well, you have to. And in a lot of the early Narcan training was they were telling them, if your state mental health laws allow for it, then it's going to be a mental health remand to the hospital, because they're going to go back into overdose. So they took this kid to the hospital. He got treated for the overdose. And I think a year after that, he's suing. I think it's Washington Township Police Department. Again, I don't have all the info in front of me, but they're suing him for unlawful imprisonment, the police department.
Well, but we've also made it. We're a very litigious country. We
Very
allow
much.
people to sue for everything.
Litigious 8-9 damn SATs, kid. Calm it down.
Litigious.
I learned that in my GED class.
So you have to take into account all that. And but again, back to the first responders, we don't
Yeah.
think of that. Can you imagine every time you showed up to a fire or a police job, the first thought was, whatever I'm going to do, am I going to get sued for that?
Yeah.
Like you can't
can't think like that. That's when you die.
You can't.
Right.
There's no room for it, and they take advantage of that, knowing that they have it's infamous. They have 2 years to make a decision that you had 5 seconds or for a cop a millisecond
Mhm.
to make a decision on what you're going to do.
We talked about that with Chesna in Weymouth, where the kid was coming at him with a rock in his hand, and he had a clean shoot.
Mhm.
And he knew in that instance, like you're saying, he was thinking, if I shoot this kid, the headline of the paper tomorrow is going to be cop shoots unarmed
Yeah.
kid.
Mhm.
They're not going to say even mention at worst.
won't even mention
They're gonna,
rock.
at worst they're going to say cop shoots kid armed with rock.
Dude,
No,
the
it'll be
kid-
kid shot armed with pet rock.
the
Pet
kid-
rock
right.
devastated.
But then meanwhile the kid gets right up. He doesn't take the shot, the clean shot. Kid gets up on him and smashes his head in with a fucking rock. Takes his gun,
Takes his gun.
shoots him in the
Yeah.
face with it, and then shoots somebody else. With
it's
it
like
after.
you're damned if you do, you're damned if
Well,
you
it's the
don't.
same argument with the taser. You're right. The guy in Atlanta a few years back, and he took the cop's taser in the Arby's parking lot,
Yeah.
and he took the cop's taser in Atlanta, and the cop shot him. They indemnified him, but his thought was he gets my taser. He tases me. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. There's no other way around
Well,
it.
I think that's also a part of every basic police curriculum, that if you go unconscious and they can get that gun out of the holster. There was a video, it happened in the 90s, I want to say, where a state trooper somewhere, it was a tiny female guy, got out of the car, beat her till she was unconscious.
with the daughter in front of him. I remember
Yes.
that video. Yes.
And
Yep.
he was trying to get the gun out of the holster, and he was struggling, and he gave up on the gun. And how did that turn out, Mo? I forget the end of that story. They got him up the road or something.
I think they did. Yeah, I don't remember
people
either.
pulled over and jumped in to help her. It was so many of these things happen that it just blurs together.
So you can't train that. You can't.
not going back to jail today, sweetheart, something like that.
Training as you can provide. There's an aspect where you say we've done all we can do. It's honestly, it's in the hands of the lawyers at that point.
Well,
Because-
I don't believe in that. I mean, I have been in a lot of crazy situations, and I am guilty of thinking of how is this going to look myself, or I've had people
course.
pull knives on me, and I've dove for the knives. And if it wasn't with the right people with me, I would have been stabbed to death.
Yeah.
And it was probably stupid in hindsight on my part, but successful. No headlines means I get to go home and breathe a sigh of relief tonight,
Well, you have your job, like
Yeah.
because at that point you're not thinking, all right, I lived, I'm good. You're not thinking
Yeah.
now what? You're thinking I'm going to get fired. I have a house, I have a wife, I have kids, I have or whatever. Or you have none of that.
Yeah.
It's everything. Darren, what's his face?
Wilson from
Wilson.
St.
He'll never work in law enforcement again.
They're still threatening his
He
life.
did nothing wrong.
Don't even get me
Nothing.
started on Aaron
We'll-
Dean. You want to
we'll
go down
not-
that
no, we're not
rabbit
gonna
hole?
talk about Aaron Dean.
You already know.
That guy's going to live with that the rest of his life. He did nothing wrong.
But let's segue that back into resiliency, right? Whether it's a good incident that happens or it's going to go sideways and it's the next George Floyd, right? I think every cop working across America today, they're just one bad photo op away from being the next
Yes.
cops involved
Yes.
in that, and it's horrible.
It's
right?
optics. It's just optics.
But I do believe that when these incidents happen, the right resiliency programs in place with a lot of these nonprofits are very essential, because it's like, okay, so let's say it's a bad shooting, like a guy just a cop lost his shit, shoots an unarmed guy for whatever reason, which has happened. It happened in North Carolina about 14 years ago. It's happened in a lot of other places. And now, what do we do with this guy? Do we just get rid of him and wait for him to start a gun? Or what if it's a good shooting? What do we have in place to make sure that these people can make it through life? Like, you don't think who's the guy who choked George Floyd out? Darren Wilson, right?
Wilson.
Yeah, you don't think he's sitting in his cell right now?
No, Chauvin.
Chauvin. Derek
Chauvin.
Chauvin.
Derek Chauvin. You don't think he's looking around his cell trying to figure out how to hang himself? And again, right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't want to dissect that incident because of politics and what have you. But what do we do for people post-incident in a lot of agencies?
Nothing.
Exactly.
No, you're out.
Some agencies do have it.
You name an agency that takes care of the guys that have been fired or in jail.
Not fired in jail, but post-incident, within the 24 hours of an incident happening, what are you doing to make sure that this guy doesn't go home and starts a pistol?
Well, the first thing you do is, as the union rep, and Rich can probably attest to this as a union rep, is that you tell him, shut your mouth. Say nothing.
Well, you're
Say
talking.
nothing.
You're talking
not,
legal.
not even a peep. No. You. But what you say
You're
at the
talking
scene.
legal. I'm talking past that. You've been.
Yeah, but you've already said and done. And when you with the point that you're talking about, when they get to that point, the damage has already been done.
Correct.
So helping them along the lines, but in order to stop that from happening at point B, how you react at point A is going to dictate the rest of the process.
Agreed.
Whether you, the guy in Nashville, right, the ICE agent smoking the cigar. Here's a guy,
My hero,
that was just doing his job, and he's out there and he's having a smoke. He's not selling. Oh, he's celebrating, dude. This isn't 1950. Fat white rich guy celebrating with his big fat stogie. Cigars are
not Boss Hogg on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Exactly. Well, that's what cigars are typically affiliated with, and that's
And really,
just not the case.
what was wrong with that?
There was nothing wrong with it. That's the point. The people are making it a point. The guy was just having a cigar. He did nothing wrong. This guy did everything. He probably wasn't even the arresting cop.
Well,
he was just outside doing perimeter security. It's over. It's done. Now you're going to be there for an hour and a half, securing the scene. So what do? I light up a cigar.
Well,
and now he's a villain?
Well, how about this? Okay, let's circle back to resiliency and suicide prevention. Remember years ago when in the NYPD, ESU were the only ones with tasers other than supervisors. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the incident where the lieutenant ordered the guy to deploy a taser on top of the awning? The guy fell to his death?
Lieutenant.
What did that lieutenant do 2 days later?
Yeah, he killed himself.
Okay.
Crazy.
So we're already past the point where keep your mouth shut, lawyers. That guy, because he had such a fear of his organization, overwhelmed with the grief, and was probably because of that a really good guy, and didn't think he was taking a life that day or going to be involved in taking a life. He accepted responsibility. He wrote it in his suicide letter, and he killed himself. Who was checking on him for those couple of days leading up to it? Who was, again, a lot of agencies have gotten better, but when you're a smaller agency with no resources to deploy, you have no resources.
Yes, if that guy had the resources, he'd be alive right now.
And again, I know the NYPD does a really good job. I got friends who work there. A guy? Yeah, I know a guy who take care of their people to the extent that they can.
To an extent, exactly.
You have police officers providing peer assistance. You have all these organizations that will check on you. What about when you're from Bumblefuck, South Carolina, and your agency is 8 people, is 1 chief, a captain, a lieutenant, a sergeant, and like 6 cops, and a traumatic incident happens.
Yeah, their budget for the police department is like $3 million a year.
Right.
Like, how do you justify
Let's
that?
not even talk shootings. How about you just saw a drunk mother crash your car? The tree comes down, goes right through the windshield, through the chest of a child, an infant. How do you deal with that and the stress?
But that's every day. Fire. How many? You guys can attest to this. How many times you go to a fire and you pull a burned baby out? Like, was there ever any help for that, Rich?
And there should have been.
Did you think, oh my God, like you go home if you have kids? And I know I've been to a couple of them, and I thought I didn't have kids then. Thinking like, how do you? And it was young in my career. Like, how do you go home and deal with that? And the answer is we didn't. You went to the bar, you had a couple of pops, and we
Gallows,
we laughed about it, and then we came to work the next day.
Well, unfortunately, times are changing and people are softer.
But that was 30 years ago. I remember that. I remember that burn baby coming out of that
Different
building
generation.
like it happened this morning.
Different generation of first responders, right, Rich?
So
I mean, how many people you see that are soft as baby shit out there?
So this is what we've been talking about with, actually, we had a meeting about it with Get Hooked. A couple of the guys are SWAT team guys for Orlando. So we're thinking about trying to start a program where we actually go into the fire academies and talk to these guys, because you've got a captive audience, right? That's probably the first time and only time they're really going to listen to you, and let them know, hey, listen, you guys are going to see a lot of shit, and back in my day,
Rich, your audio is coming in all. Are you out on the back porch with the ocean flowing? I hear a lot of static in your audio.
I got boots going by. Sorry.
You got one?
Did a
I got
robot just talk?
boats.
Is he a Decepticon?
I don't even know what he is.
A lot of boats are going
We
by.
got him. It's the wind. The wind is doing it.
Stop passing wind, Rich.
Stop farting.
Jesus Christ! Here we go. All right. So my big thing is like you're talking about training. I mean, if we go into some of these academies, it might be fruitless for 95% of these kids that are in these academies. But if you show up at these academies and start telling these guys on how it's going to be, and back in my day, if you wanted to see a counselor, you were told maybe you should be a florist, and that was contributed to a lot of problems with guys down the road having that attitude. But if we could get into some of these academies and talk to some of these classes, and even if we get one or two kids.
But like I said, if you get 10% of them to actually absorb what you're saying, they're going to go to they're going to get their assignment, and then they may not be the one that's directly affected. But when you get back to the firehouse and you see somebody having a little trouble dealing with what they just were part of, or yesterday or last month, you may have someone there that says, "Hey, I remember that talk that they gave," and can offer advice. If nothing else, continually letting folks know that there's help when you need it.
Yeah.
For years, cops were deathly afraid of saying I need help because they didn't want to be what we call the rubber gun squad. They're going to take your gun. They're going to jam you up. You're not going to work. You're not going to get your overtime. You won't be able to pay your bills. You might get fired. All of these things. Oh, by the way, and we're ball breakers. I don't know if FD are ball breakers like cops are, but we break balls, and that's a lot. Balls. And so you're breaking balls a little bit with love, and then you don't know where that's going to go. So to have at least one or two people say, "Hey," there, and honestly, that probably falls on the union reps.
Well, that's where the training.
A union rep comes in after a job and knows that you scraped a couple of kids out of a backseat of a fucking Toyota, the little Honda Civic that got crushed by a tractor trailer on 95 there.
Yeah,
heading down to the Keys.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, again,
have that conversation. The union rep can say, "Hey, look. Talk to me. There's things out there, even if it's just to blow off some steam. We don't need to get you on drugs and have a meeting every Tuesday, but just."
Well, it's interesting that you bring all that up, Tom, because things that I trust more than government agencies, a used syringe on the ground, a condom in a nightclub bathroom. I trust all those more than any agency to take care of their guys.
So you've touched condoms in the bathroom?
Don't ask me. So what would you do for a Klondike bar? Come on.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So if you hook up with a PD or an FD, and they're on board with that, it's not saying the government is telling you this. We're just offering something.
Well, this is the thing. That's the whole point of the resiliency training, because think about this from a management, a budgetary, and a business perspective, right? How much do you think the average training costs to train an EMT, a firefighter, a paramedic, a cop? It's thousands of dollars, right? So you have something that's broken that could be fixed. Why should your first knee-jerk reaction be, let's get rid of this person? Let's throw them away like yesterday's trash, right? Because, I don't trust them out there. Shouldn't the goal be to get them back to a point? Like, you're sick. You need to get healthy again to get back to a point.
I wish Andrew Einstein was here. Einstein tells a great story. Here's a guy that was in the military, was a cop, was about to take his own life. His family recognized that he was in trouble. They bought him a puppy, a little dog, the night that he was going to take his life. And I'm happy to share the story because I've asked Andrew before if it's okay. I share the story. The night he was taking his life, he wrote the note. He went out with his buddies. He got himself good and wasted. He was going to come take the pills. He woke up the next day and his family was there with a puppy. And he took the puppy. The puppy's name is Gunner. And he took the puppy and he swears up and down with every moral fiber in his body that that dog saved his life.
Yeah.
And what happened was some police chief who knew his old chief reached out, knew he needed help, said, I got a job for you.
Yeah.
And he's been working since. He thought it's over. I'm done. Somebody looked at him, said, hey, I think you're worth saving.
Yeah.
Someone he didn't even know said, you're worth saving. And he saved himself and they saved him. And he's right. He's got a family. He's got 2 kids. He's, he goes everywhere with that dog. I mean, everyone knows the dog.
I attended a training 5 or 6 years ago with New York State. It was trauma training, with the focus of that training to be like, you have unhealthy police officers, first responders that need to get healthy again. And part of the problem is there's a lot of people out there struggling. Like I'm proud to say I have very good coping mechanisms, and I know if I do need to reach out for help, I can reach out to Tom Werther of Line of Duty Cigars to come with a stick and,
Here we go with the plugs.
to cheer me up and turn my frown upside down. But not everybody has resources. Not everybody has the good resources and support mechanisms in place to really deal with these things. And that's where the beautiful part of collaborating with an organization such as Reps for Responders, because they're not your job. Their goal is to give you what you need to help you get back on track to be the great cop, the great EMT, the great firefighter, the great military person that you can be. To turn it around, to say, I'm no longer sick, or I am sick. It's a daily struggle, but I'm here doing the job, getting it done, and it's getting me through my day.
All right. I'm getting yelled at by the booth. Mo. So we have fish responders. We have fire department meals. We have black ice. The websites will be up. You guys want to click on them? See
All
what
of them are
the-
in the comments.
See what these folks are about, what they're doing. If you can support in one way or another, anything, even just a like on their Facebook page helps. You'd be surprised how much a like or a share,
Like and a share,
it goes.
100%.
It really does. It's so simple. It takes nothing. We talked about the last show about the signing the petitions to keep the cop killers in jail. It takes seconds. It takes nothing. When you stop listening to this podcast, if you just open up your phone and go to those websites or they'll go to those Facebook pages and just give a quick like and a share and a comment, anything, you just don't know where that like and where that share is going to end up and how it's going to help. The bottom line is it can't hurt. So if you like what we're doing and if you like what these folks are doing, just take 30 seconds out of your day, give them a like, give them a share. If you know someone that can help out, make a connection. It's literally, it's nothing. It's nothing. And you never know which one of those simple little 30-second acts is going to be life-changing for what Rich is doing and what Robbie's doing or what Matt's doing. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, and Rich and Robbie, we're definitely going to give Matt your contact info. You guys will all connect after.
Thanks, brother.
You guys want to add anything?
Thank
You have
No, just pleasure to be on and good to see you again. And I can't wait to have a stick with you.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be down, bro. I'm gonna be down. Honestly, I don't even know if you really fish. You've been telling me you're a fisherman for like 3 years. I haven't seen a boat. I haven't even seen a fish. I visited Rich. He made me a steak.
Maybe
I'm like,
you
dude,
suck
how
at
about
fishing.
some Dorado, some red snapper? He made me a steak. I'm
Maybe
like,
you
what
suck
is
at
this?
fishing. What kind of bait are you using?
No, he's
Is it the
really
bait
good
you
at
showed me
fishing.
the other
Oh, I
day?
just sat in the back and drank beers.
Yeah.
The small bait you have?
I want to be the first guy to take a dump in the new boat. That's what I want, Rich.
It's nice to have goals in life.
Yeah, there you go. Goals.
Hold on. Robert, does the fire truck have a bathroom? Is there a commode in the canteen?
No, we got a triple sink though. We use one of those.
All right, it's same drain, right? You can do it in the sink.
All goes the same place.
All right. Well,
All right, anybody
we're
got
gonna wrap
any
in-
plugs?
Plug, Matt?
Anything?
Yeah, give me a follow. Black Ice Consultants on Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere in the metaverse. Meta doesn't like guns, so my profiles are pushed down regularly. So any likes, like Tom said, I'd appreciate it. Shares helps, and we'll come to you for great training, whatever you need. If it doesn't exist, we can build it for you.
Meta doesn't like guns and they don't like cigars. So lineofdutycigars.com. I can't advertise. I do post on my group. We have about 20,000 followers. We're doing all right, but I can't do advertising there. So I also rely on just a share or a post or a link. You have someone graduating from the academy, you're doing a steak night, a retirement gift, whatever you need, just reach out. It's a quick email. It's a quick like. It's a quick phone call, whatever you need. Line of Duty Cigars can help make that happen.
And Rob, I know you don't know the street team or the genesis of that, but I just want you to know that I see the swag over your shoulder, 2XL. I'm just saying, if something happens to come my way, so be it.
2XL?
2XL. Yeah, I'm fat. So what? Get over it.
We're in it together, bro. We're in it together.
Should we use the hotline? What's the hotline for? I want to know
Hey.
what the, hold on, wait.
Oh, going to the hotline.
For an extra delivery charge, Tom, will you deliver it in your Borat bikini?
I want to know who's on the other side of this hotline here. All right. I'm thinking when I came in today and I saw the hotline, I was thinking, is this God? Like, are we talking about the Pope? Like, hey,
I gotta go. I'm gonna spontaneously combust.
hey, God, he's from Chicago. The Mets are playing the Cubs. I know your guy now is a Cubby fan, so we'll see what God says. I like the phone. Maybe I don't like the phone. What is this? Is this a fire? Rich, is this a fire phone?
It's a fire phone, bro.
It is, right?
It's
Oh, it says right here. It
It's
says right on
100%
it.
a fire phone.
Fire phone. What would that get used
You didn't
for?
learn that in your GED class either.
What were they? Hey guys, yeah, I need you to bring up more burgers. Yeah, we're barbecuing on the roof. Yeah, this is the fire hotline.
So Tom, how much extra to have you deliver the cigars in a Borat bikini?
I'll deliver it with a firefighter meals package and a cigar, free of charge. All right, guys, thanks so much. Freed and Frederick, Sports Beats coming up next. Yeah, that's all I got, man.
That's it. Outstanding.
Thanks again,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
All
it.
right,
Appreciate all the help.
we'll hook up, man.